here waiting for Omar Abdullah. He has a very early morning start. In fact, he's already left, so we are going to catch him at a midpoint. We are going to Machal, which is literally on the border. But before that, as you can see behind me, what they call the road opening party. You know, before the road is open, there is, I guess, a detection and the clearance is given by the security forces, which, of course, is a very interesting and a grim reminder of the days that were and the days that still are, in fact. But apart from that, it's a beautiful town here. It's a slight nip in the air considering it's May. The shops are still to be open, but the beautiful backdrop behind us, it's interesting. Campaign time with all the heat and the bustle and all the fun. So early morning here in Kashmir, it's like 8 a.m. But Omar Abdullah is already on the campaign trail. We've caught him in his constituency in Baramulla. He's president of the National Conference, former chief minister. But at this moment, your most important identity is really the candidate from Baramulla. Omar, I'm going to begin with the cliche, really. You know, this is the first election post 370. First reaction to that, what made you contest this election?
Well, the last question is the easiest one to answer. It was a decision of the party, both my contesting as well as the constituency from which the party wanted me to contest. Various factors came into play. The most important one was that we found that Baramulla perhaps was the constituency where the BJP and its proxies were making the most sort of efforts to make inroads into traditional national conference areas. But that aside, you're right, this is the first major election after 5th August 2019. And for us, everything is different. This is the first election we're fighting as a union territory. It's the first election we're fighting without the sort of constitutional safeguards that J&K enjoyed up until August 2019. And it's also the first election we're fighting after the gerrymandering or delimitation that was done to benefit the BJP and its proxy parties. So for us, a lot has changed on the ground. What has also changed, and that's perhaps the only positive that we've seen, is that the enthusiasm and the sort of josh, as we put it, amongst the cadre of the party is extremely strong. I'm actually pleasantly surprised to see just how enthusiastic the grassroots National Conference worker and cadre are in terms of mobilizing support on the ground. And this is not just in my own constituency, but we've generally seen this across the board in Anantnag constituency, in Srinagar, and even in the constituencies that we didn't fight, where we were supporting the India Bloc Congress candidates. I saw similar enthusiasm when I was out campaigning for the Congress as well.
But you know, giving so many seats to the Congress, do you think that was a smart move? Because a lot of regional allies have then later regretted the fact that they gave away so many seats because the Congress somehow doesn't manage to convert.
Well, I mean, these were always going to be uphill battles for the Congress because they weren't seats that the Congress held. In fact, both seats that we are contesting with them have been won by the BJP twice in a row. And they repeated their candidates, unlike other places where for various reasons they chopped and replaced sitting members of parliament. For both the Jammu and the Udhampur seat, they repeated their candidates. For the Ladakh seat, which again we're contesting together, the Congress is up against a new face relatively. Now, whether it was a smart move or not, it was the right move to make. Obviously, the National Conference has in the past contested all 6 seats. And if we'd had to, we would have contested them again. But that would have been the wrong thing to do. It would have directly benefited the BJP, which is not what we wanted to do. and that's why conversion is another thing. But definitely, the BJP has had a much tougher fight with the India bloc.
I'm going to deviate a little because I'm totally distracted by the view. Coming from Delhi, this is like amazing, the pristine countryside. Can you tell us a bit about the area where we are and where we're going?
We are in the northernmost part of the valley, actually heading towards the line of control, the area called Matsil, which is one of the higher parts of Kupwara district and one of the most remote areas of my constituency. I have three areas that actually four, you look at it, that actually border right on the line of control. I have Tangdar, I have Keran, I have Matsil, and I have Gurez. So this is one of those areas.
What has the reaction been in terms of 370? I was here last night in Srinagar, and I came 5 years ago, in fact, to do an interview with you. I found a huge change. There was more life on Lal Chowk. People were roaming around more at night. So has there been some, maybe the law and orders improved? Anything? You're shaking your head.
I will grant that you don't see the sort of stone pelting and protest. But I think it's unfair to suggest that life started for us after the 5th of August 2019, which is not true. Unfortunately, very conveniently, people forget that we had relative calm and normalcy even in 2011, 2012, even in the run up to 2013. 2014 was proving to be a good year until we got hit by the floods. Then, of course, we've had a few bad years after that. But buzzing markets and people out and about and stuff like that, this is not something that's new for us. And even the tourism numbers, I'll grant that there has been a bit of a jump in tourist numbers, but not to the extent that this government is claiming, because effectively what they've done is they've changed the way they count tourists. But otherwise, by including yatris. Now, as a sort of a policy, we would exclude counting of yatris as tourists, because we found that actually, other than coming and performing the yatra, they don't contribute much to tourist activities. And I particularly refer to the Mata Vaishno Devi yatris, because they come to Katra, go up, do their darshan, come down, and they leave. And it's very difficult to get them to move left or right to any of our tourist destinations. So we don't count them, or at least we didn't count them as tourists. And that's more than 1 crore a year. This government, in order to make it look as if tourist numbers are much higher, decided to include those Amarnath, the Mata Vaishno Devi Yatris as tourists. And suddenly then turned around and told the world that, look, after 5th August 2019, our tourist arrivals have gone up from so many lakhs to 1 crore and something. Well, obviously they've gone up. You've just counted people differently. But then we're used to that. The BJP, every time they want to make something look attractive, they basically change the way you count it, and whether that's GDP or employment figures and a whole host of other things.
In terms of elections, what made you contest this election and not, say, wait for the assembly election? Because whoever sees you, talks about you in Delhi, they see you as really the future chief minister rather than an MP from Kashmir.
Well, I'm not contesting assembly elections in a union territory. I'm absolutely clear on that part. I've made no secret of the fact that having been chief minister for 6 years of what was then the most empowered state in Jammu, in the country, even though relative to where we were at the point of independence, we had been quite significantly disempowered, but we were still much better off than other states. Today, we are probably one of the most disempowered territories in the country. And there is no way I'm going to subject myself to the sort of humiliation that you see, let's say, the Chief Minister of Delhi subjected to, or the Chief Minister of Pondicherry. That's not what I've set myself up for. And if I have to represent the people and work for them and improve the lot of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, I know I won't be able to do it as the Chief Minister of a union territory. which is why that option is I've effectively closed it for the time being.
Are you expecting the elections to be announced anytime soon? The court has set a deadline.
Well, I
I
think
mean, sorry, statehood.
effectively elections have been announced. The Supreme Court has set a deadline for assembly elections and told the union government that they must be concluded by the 30th of September, which in itself I think is a crying shame. Because why did the Supreme Court have to order elections? Elections are the responsibility of the Election Commission in consultation with the Government of India. The fact that the Supreme Court had to step in goes to show how this government, together with the Election Commission, was effectively working to deny us our democratic rights. As far as statehood is concerned, one of two things will happen. Either on the 4th of June, you will replace the BJP government with a non-BJP government, in which case the chances of J&K having statehood restored before assembly elections are much higher. But in the unlikely and unfortunate scenario where the BJP is returned to power with reduced numbers or in a coalition, then I would expect statehood to be returned sometime after the assembly elections. So let's wait and see what happens.
So we're going to be with you for the whole day today. So I'm going to wait till we reach and then ask some more questions. So, Omar, amongst the heat of the campaign trail, here we are. I'm holding snow, and I think this is going to be one hell of a campaign to do.
I don't think you'll have another campaign trail in this election where you'll cross the snow line and actually pass through, I guess, what is effectively a small glacier. But then that's the advantage of coming to Kashmir, and that to northern Kashmir, to cover the elections. I also don't think you'll find a more beautiful sort of place to do one of these.
Really? How above sea level are we? How the height?
About 3,100 odd meters.
Wow. And I can see some people playing snowballs. I can see this is going to be a fun campaign to cover. I, should we call Sajat here and just settle the matter once and for all?
Well, if a sort of a snowball fight could sort out this election, yeah, we'd be all done.
That is true. But coming to Sajat, I mean, I don't want to, bring. Well, let's bring some heat into the campaign. I've been talking to him, and he's been, of course, the allegations that Omar is an outsider, and what does he know about this area? He belongs to Srinagar. He's Delhi ka aadmi hai.
I have nothing to say. I'm as much of an insider here as he is. He is a great friend of the BJP. By that logic, the Prime Minister has no business fighting in Varanasi, and so on and so forth. So I don't think my opponent has much else to say about me. And anyway, insider, outsider will all get settled on the 4th of June.
Fair enough. But do you think the state as it is, there is the need for some help from the center or some kind of a working equation with the center?
Look, every state has to have a working equation, no matter how well off the state is. At the end of the day, even though India is a federal republic, power is concentrated in the union government. And for disadvantaged states like Jammu and Kashmir, the center, the union has an even stronger role to play. So, yes, but then every relationship has two parties. How the union government decides to treat J&K after the assembly elections, I think is something that we'll have to wait to see.
Okay, a little bit about the larger elections, in Delhi and in what's happening in the rest of India. How do you see the narrative shaping up? And there is a lot of talk about, polarizing the Hindu-Muslim narrative, especially brought up by the BJP.
Well, look, every election, at least in the last 10 years, you've seen a concerted effort by the BJP to polarize. In this election, the rhetoric seems to have been stepped up a notch or two. Now, whether this is wishful thinking on our part, that the BJP must be in trouble if they're doing this, I don't know. In the past also, we've had our fingers burnt. Every time there's been sort of rhetoric.
I think all the fun is over there.
Yeah, we're doing the work, they're having the fun.
Clearly.
No, but yeah, every time sort of the rhetoric gets stepped up, we sort of hope that this is a sign that the BJP is in trouble, and then it doesn't happen. But this time, other than the sort of Hindu-Muslim rhetoric, the surprising one was the way in which the Prime Minister effectively threw the Ambanis and the Adanis under the bus. Talking about them funding the Congress would have sort of been fine. But basically saying that they collect black money and then distribute it in trucks, I was actually really surprised because knowing this Prime Minister as we do, and I've seen him closely as Chief Minister and now as Prime Minister, unlike most of us, he's not the sort of person to get carried away in the heat of the moment. Every word he says, everything he sort of, every sentence he utters is very carefully structured, very carefully thought. Not one word goes out of place. So obviously, what he said in these last few speeches was not spur of the moment. It was thought about. So why is anybody's guess? But like I said, even if it's wishful thinking, we'll allow ourselves that.
ये जो अभी चुनाव आ रहे हैं उमर, कश्मीर के बारे में कहा जा रहा है कि स्टेटहुड सून आ जाएगा, दैट इज वन ऑफ द थिंग जो बीजेपी कह रही है.
पहले तो हमें हमारा जो रियासत का दर्जा था वो हमसे लिया नहीं जाना चाहिए था. हमें यूनियन टेरिटरी बनाया गया तो किस लिए? आखिरकार जम्मू कश्मीर को उससे मिला क्या? अभी तक मुझे कोई ऐसा नहीं मिला जो मुझे ये बता सके कि जम्मू कश्मीर को यूनियन टेरिटरी बनाने के बाद हमें फ़ायदा क्या हासिल हुआ. यहाँ तक के मतलब अगर आप सियासी तौर देखें तो बीजेपी ने कहीं पे भी इसका जिक्र भी नहीं किया था. चलिए 370 पे तो उन्होंने चुनाव लड़े थे, लेकिन यूनियन टेरिटरी का तो कोई मामला ही नहीं था. तो अब वापस मिलना चाहिए, नहीं मिलना चाहिए, कब मिलना चाहिए, ये अब देखें. हम तो चाहते हैं कि फौरी तौर मतलब पार्लियामेंट इलेक्शन के बाद मिले, लेकिन अगर बीजेपी की हुकूमत दोबारा बनती है तो शायद फिर हमें असेंबली इलेक्शन का इंतज़ार करना पड़ेगा और उसके बाद वापस आ जाएगा.
आपको लगता है कि असेंबली के पहले कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि स्टेटहुड, क्योंकि
ये करने के लिए तो कर सकते हैं, लेकिन बीजेपी वाले करेंगे नहीं. अगर हुकूमत बदल जाती है, जिसकी हम उम्मीद कर रहे हैं कि 4 जून को बीजेपी के अलावा दूसरी हुकूमत बनेगी, तो फिर ज़रूर हमारी कोशिश होगी कि इलेक्शन से पहले ही हमें जो है स्टेटहुड वापस, हमें रियासत का दर्जा जो है वापस दिया जाए.
उमर अब्दुल्ला लोकसभा क्यों लड़ रहे हैं? क्योंकि सब आपको दिल्ली में जब देखते हैं और बाद में उमर अब्दुल्ला मोर एज द चीफ मिनिस्टर लेवल पे है, तो आप असेंबली में.
फ़िलहाल जब तक जम्मू कश्मीर यूनियन टेरिटरी है, मैं असेंबली का इलेक्शन लड़ूंगा नहीं. यहाँ हालात बदल जाने दीजिए, उसके बाद हम ये बात कर लेंगे.
चलिए, लेकिन हालात थोड़े बदले नहीं है, क्योंकि कल हम आए थे लाल चौक में, हमने काफ़ी, मैं 6 साल के बाद आ रही हूँ, तो थोड़ा बहुत तो फ़र्क देखा था. लोग घूम रहे थे रात को, दुकानें देर खुली थी.
मुसीबत यह ना कि आप लोगों को लगता है कि लाल चौक जम्मू कश्मीर है. लाल चौक इतना ही जम्मू कश्मीर है जितना नरीमन पॉइंट मुंबई है या जितना मुंबई महाराष्ट्र है. लाल चौक में आपको 10 लोग ज़्यादा दिख गए तो उससे ये मतलब, आप ये मतलब निकालते हो कि पूरा जम्मू कश्मीर बदला है. बदला यहाँ के लोगों के लिए कुछ खास नहीं है. नौजवान आज भी परेशान है नौकरियों को लेके. इन्वेस्टमेंट जिसकी बात की जा रही थी कहीं देखने को नहीं मिल रही. कोई नया प्रोजेक्ट जम्मू कश्मीर के लिए खुला नहीं है. बिजली का हाल ये देखें, मुझे अब इस इलाके में 2 दिन हो गए, इन 2 दिनों में मैंने 15 मिनट बिजली देखी. नहीं तो इन्वर्टर, टॉर्च, सोलर और जनरेटर के अलावा यहाँ बिजली जो है इस इलाके में है नहीं. मैं जो जहाँ हम लोलाब, जहाँ इस वादी में जहाँ हम हैं, लोलाब की वादी में 2 दिन में 15 मिनट बिजली, तो आप कैसे कह सकते हैं कि बदल गया है? हाँ, 10 लोग ज़्यादा आपको लाल चौक में दिख जाएंगे, लेकिन लोगों की ज़िंदगी में कोई ख़ास बेहतरी नहीं आई है.
We are now going to go ahead and go for the rally, but it's fun to stop for a while, take in the snow, especially after coming in from Delhi. it feels really good. And plus, as you can see, there is the heat of the campaign issues. But what I like about Omar, and I've been seeing him ever since he first became an MP from 2008, sorry 96, is that there is a rational, reasonable voice. He voices the aspirations of the people of Kashmir, but he also is not. He takes into account the ground realities. If there is a voice that I think who looks to the future, he's got he's good on governance. He's got the governance bench strength in him. In that sense, I think Omar Abdullah brings a lot to his plate than just being a simple candidate. But let's go. Let's see his campaign. If ever there was a place in India made to hold elections in the heat and dust of the summer months, it is right here in Kashmir. So, on the campaign trail, while Omar is going to be addressing a rally, we also have Omar's two sons who are here on his campaign trail, along with him, helping him with the logistics. There is Zahir and Zamir who are here with me. And hello, good to meet you both.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So, you're both here helping your dad, but tell us a bit about yourselves. You're not politicians or going to be politicians.
No, we're not politicians. We're probably not going to be politicians. We are primarily lawyers practicing in Delhi that are recently shifting our practice now to Srinagar and just trying to help out dad with the elections wherever, in whatever way, shape, and form we can.
Both of you have a legal.
We are both from a legal background, practicing, and quite invested in it actually, enjoying it.
Law and politics has a very interesting, milan hota hai.
Well, I mean, look at this election. I mean, you can't take away law from politics. But we see all the sort of legal involvement when it comes to an election. Even on the trail, we're working on those sort of election issues, EC complaints, submitting EC complaints. Even while Omar Saab is speaking, we're busy on our computers and iPads, sort of typing out those complaints. So you can't take away law and politics. They're one and the same.
He said no to politics. Are you also saying no?
I mean, I think his no is also premature. I mean, if you ask us at this moment, there is no plan. A lot of people have asked us the same question. This is not a sort of platform that we seek to enter politics from. Omar Saab is the candidate from Baramulla. We are here to support him. We are here to support the party. And at this juncture, when all forces are sort of out there to weaken the party, weaken the candidates, I feel like, because I feel so strongly about it, there was no question of whether I would or would not involve myself. I would involve myself. Any support that I can give, I'm ready to give. Like for example, yesterday our cameraman was sick. Me and Zahir were on camera duty. Sometimes we're on legal duty. Whatever the party requires. It's always like that.
You've seen the way, recently the whole Article 370 and what has been happening with the people over here. Did that, motivate you more to come forward?
I mean, the journey began a bit earlier. The journey began at Supreme Court when we worked on 370.
You guys were the lawyers for that?
No, we were assisting in that matter. So we started off there and we saw the judgment, and we knew that if the voice of the people was to come out and was to be heard, it would be through these elections. So we knew that we had to involve ourselves here. We involved ourselves in the Supreme Court to fight for the people there in court, and that regretfully didn't work out. That's not over yet. That journey is still to continue. That matter isn't finished. So the next step was these elections. And we decided that there was no other option but to come here, listen to people.
I've asked your father, he's been asked by the media what happened to him when he was detained. But what about you? You could not get in touch with him. You were not. So what were you as family going through?
No, it was difficult, especially because when we tried to meet dad for the first time when he was detained, from the grapevine he'd heard that we are trying to come, but he thought it was just a lie. That is something that to kill his morale,
To mess with him.
to mess with his head. So he didn't even believe that we were being allowed to meet him.
It's only when we entered his detention sort of home is when he realized that, oh, okay, this wasn't really a rumor. But it was difficult because, I mean, we were communicating. There was no communication. The only communication we had with him was when we used to come here, which wasn't all that often because it was hard. Getting permission was hard. They used to keep a very close eye on us. I mean, even though Omar Saab was the one detained, our movement was restricted. We had to go by schedule every, like, for example, we were to reach his detention area at 9 o'clock. There was no going away with it. Even though we were not the ones detained.
So both of you, your names begin with Z. I asked Omar about it, and he said he's covered them from A to Z because the surname is Abdullah. But hearing them talk, I can see that Omar Abdullah carries his Z plus security with him. Both of you are here. So on that note, let's go and hear what Omar is saying at the election rally.
इन दूर दराज इलाकों के साथ नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस का एक अपना ही करीबी रिश्ता है और जितना करीबी रिश्ता मेरी तंजीम का है उतना ही करीबी रिश्ता मेरे खानदान का है। बाबाए कौम से लेके मेरे वालिद साहब और मेरे, जब कभी भी आप लोगों की दुआओं की वजह से हमें इस रियासत का इख्तिदार संभालने का मौका मिला है, तो हमारी मुकम्मल कोशिश रही है कि ये दूर दराज इलाके जो हैं ये पीछे न रह जाएं, तरक्की में इनको अपना बराबर का हिस्सा मिले। आज मेरे खानदान की जो है चौथी पीढ़ी आज यहाँ मस्जिद की सरजमीन पे जो है इन्हें भी कदम रखने का आज मौका हासिल हुआ है।
सोमर, अभी हमने आपका भाषण सुना, इट वाज क्वाइट इंटरेस्टिंग। आपने जो मुझे अच्छा लगा कि आपने जो अब्दुल्ला फैमिली का कनेक्ट है यहाँ के एरिया से, आपने उसके बारे में बताया। जो जैसे कि सोलर पैनल्स आए थे जब फारूक अब्दुल्ला मंत्री थे, आप भी इनसे मिलते हैं, तो क्या फारूक अब्दुल्ला फैमिली का कनेक्ट इस एरिया के साथ?
हमारा तो इन दूर दराज इलाकों के साथ एक बहुत करीबी रिश्ता रहा है। मेरे दादा वो इन इलाकों में बहुत ज़्यादा घूमा करते थे और उनकी मुकम्मल कोशिश रही थी कि इन इलाकों को हम गरीबी से, गुर्बत से जो है बाहर निकालें। 1950 में जो यहाँ लोगों को ज़मीन देने का जो प्रोग्राम था उससे इन इलाकों को बहुत फ़ायदा मिला, लेकिन उसके बाद भी कोशिश ये की गई कि हुकूमत की जो स्कीमें हैं उनसे इन लोगों को फ़ायदा मिले।
और आप अब जैसे कि अब यहाँ भाषण दे रहे थे, लेकिन दिल्ली में एक और भाषण चल रहा है। अमित शाह ने आज बोला है कि जब अगर बीजेपी आएगी तो फिर मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी का कोटा में हम बंद करके ओबीसी और मतलब जमात पे नहीं देंगे, लेकिन ओबीसी SC STs को देंगे।
मुसलमानों को निशाना बनाना ये बीजेपी की पुरानी आदत है और ये हम पहली बार नहीं देख रहे हैं, ये तो चलता रहता है।
ये हमने बहुत सुना है, कश्मीरियत, जमहूरियत और इंसानियत। आपको इन वर्ड्स के क्या मायने हैं?
ये तो वाजपेयी साहब ने हमें दिए थे।
हाँ।
और है मतलब कश्मीरियत है, जमहूरियत तो अभी है नहीं, जमहूरियत का थोड़ा सा हिस्सा है। बाकी अगर असेंबली के इंतखाबात होते हैं तो जमहूरियत होगी। इंसानियत तो हम सब चाहते हैं कि इंसानियत हो। कश्मीरियत तो हमारा एक पुराना कल्चर रहा है।
आपने ये भी कहा है कि अगर चुनाव के रिजल्ट आएंगे तो फिर लगता है कि बीजेपी विल बी वोटेड आउट।
अब उम्मीद तो होती है, हम उसीलिए तो इलेक्शन लड़ रहे हैं, चाहे वो इंडिया ब्लॉक हो चाहे हम हो। उम्मीद तो हमारी वही है, बाकी वोटर क्या फैसला करते हैं वो हम वोटर के लिए देखते हैं।
बट हाउ डू यू फील द वे द इलेक्शन इज गोइंग? तो जो नैरेटिव जा रहा है, आप कैसे देख रहे हैं उसको? एक तरफ से बीजेपी इज टॉकिंग अबाउट एक मंडलवाद करे का मंडल, दोनों ही मतलब
नफरत वाली बात है। उससे तो लग रहा है कि मतलब फिलहाल शायद थोड़ा सा बीजेपी की हालत पतली लग रही है। बट अगेन मैं बार बार कहता हूँ, ये हमारे तरफ से कोई विशफुल थिंकिंग तो नहीं है, वो 4 जून को पता चलेगा।
So what do you feel, Omar? Does development win elections? Does emotion? Because at the end of the day, it is emotions.
Look, the absence of development is a drawback, but very often the presence of development is not a positive that you can find.
आपने ये वोट इस पूरे कौम को देना है, क्योंकि ये हम लड़ाई पूरे कौम के लिए लड़ रहे हैं।
The issues in the valley are a bit different from the rest of India in the sense that the narrative of Ram Mandir and caste survey are not heard here. The issues are local: restoration of statehood, security, regular electricity, jobs, education. The locals point out that while tourism may have increased post 370, Lal Chowk is not the rest of Kashmir. There are still drive-pasts by the army convoys. There is a very visible presence of the army, though hartals and stone pelters have decreased. Perhaps one reason for this is that none of the national parties are contesting from the valley. For all its tall claims of normalcy post 370, the BJP is not fielding any candidate here. The Congress is also not contesting, though it has tied up with the National Conference. However, all the seats that the Congress has is in Jammu and not in Kashmir. There is a reason for this. Until now, the Congress has not yet opposed the abrogation of 370. In fact, the big ticket question is that this election is not just a Lok Sabha poll, but really it's being seen as a semi-finals for the Assembly. Who will be best placed not just to represent Kashmir in Parliament, but also to heal the valley post 370. As a former sitting Chief Minister and a third-term MP, Omar Abdullah has the governance track record. The Abdullahs are arguably the oldest political families the people of the valley have a connect with. In order for Kashmir to move forward, its past also has to be acknowledged. Who is the best place to do that? This election is also about that. And in the hustle and bustle of the campaign trail, I also found time to present Omar with a copy of the updated version of my book, The Contenders, which profiles Gen Next leaders in the age of Modi and has a chapter on Omar Abdullah. So Machal is a border town and one that is really on the LAC. It is also a town that falls in the constituency from where Omar Abdullah is contesting from, where Sajjad Loan is contesting from. What is very interesting in these elections is, for all the talk of Article 370, neither the BJP nor the Congress is contesting from here. The BJP is not fielding any candidate. Congress at least is in alliance with with Omar Abdullah's party. But it's very interesting to know that the BJP is not fielding anything. Yet when we hear them in Delhi, the rhetoric is all about Naya Kashmir. What is the Naya Kashmir all about? The locals here, the candidates here say that Naya Kashmir is something that was already there. They've already worked on development. They've been working on these issues which the centre is now claiming to be promoting. Yes, they say the law and order has improved. There has been less hartal, there have been less stone protests, but a lot still has to be done before the whole claim of Naya Kashmir can be claimed. We spoke to them about the fact that in Lal Chowk there was tourists at night, there was activity at night. In his speech, you heard Omar Abdullah say, when he spoke to the people, that the Delhi ke log aate hain to Lal Chowk ko sochte hain, but there is definitely Kashmir is beyond Lal Chowk. So interesting rhetoric, interesting to feel the pulse of the people on the ground. This is Priya Sehgal, video journalist, Setu.